Hey, welcome. It is Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy International Women's Day. Very important day. Make sure you show support for the women in your life, your partners, your business colleagues, your friends. Make a post, support them. This is the only way we can make positive changes if we all support each other. So welcome to the Music Industry City Music News Daily on the Music Industry Broadcast Network. I'm Peter Schwing, and this is where we scour the World Wide Web for music business news that we find important, and hopefully you do too. I will be starting very shortly, but first I want to welcome all the viewers that are tuning in on YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook. This is video live stream, and to everyone listening in on Clubhouse. So how this works is I usually have about three articles. I pull up and I read key sections from it. I will then open up the floor for a 5-minute discussion on each topic, so to keep going. And then for the video viewers, you can type in comments and questions at any time. And for those in Clubhouse, feel free to raise your hand during the topic if you'd like to come on stage to talk. Please note that this is being simultaneously live streamed and being recorded. So if you're not comfortable with that, please do not raise your hand to speak. So now that we got the terms and conditions out of the way per Clubhouse rules, after we go through the three headlines, I will open up the floor for continued discussion on the topic so we can have a roundtable for the remainder of the hour. I do this every weekday from 12 p.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, and then go off to the other rooms and talk more about those particular topics. If you enjoy this and want to tune into all our programming and networking events, follow our Clubhouse group at Music Industry City or on your favorite podcast player, video network, socials, and you can register for free at musicindustrycity.com to get the weekly schedule. If you'd like to be a guest or submit music to one of our listening if you'd like to be a guest or submit music to one of our listening sessions, slide into my DMs on Instagram to find out more. I'd love to have more of you on here. So, without further ado, let's kick this off and let's get this party started. All right, so we're going to start off with Spotify, because what is a week without starting off with Spotify? So this one, it's focused on the EU, but this is important. It's Spotify versus Apple, tech giant versus tech giant, and it's important to see how this rolls out in Europe, because sometimes the US will also take some pointers from what's going on in Europe. So title, this is from Digital Music News, and Spotify's antitrust crusade against Apple is being taken seriously in Europe. EU charges could be forthcoming. So this has been going on for a while, but here's an update. And again, if this is something you'd like to chime in about, once I finish up reading through some of the key points here, just raise your hand during it and I'll bring you up on the stage. So, back in March of 2019, Spotify named Apple in a European antitrust complaint, centering in part on the 30% fee that third-party companies must pay on certain App Store transactions. Now, nearly 2 years later, EU officials are taking the complaint seriously, and charges could be forthcoming for Apple. So to recap, Spotify publicly unveiled its EU antitrust complaint against Apple in a blog post, noting at the outset that it had moved forward with the action only, quote, after careful consideration. The Stockholm-based streaming platform also maintained that Apple's rules, quote, purposefully limit choice and stifle innovation, and, quote, before linking a standalone website, Time to Play Fair, featuring a more comprehensive breakdown of its qualms as well as regular updates about the status of the complaint. Apple promptly responded with a blog post of its own entitled, quote, addressing Spotify's complaints, which they defended the App Store and the fee for its in-app digital transactions. Quote, Spotify seeks to keep all the benefits of the App Store ecosystem, including the substantial revenue that they draw from the App Store's customers, without making any contributions to that marketplace. Apple wrote prior to highlighting Spotify's alleged failure to mention that the 30% fee drops to 15% after the first year of an annual subscription. Then in mid-June of 2020, the European European Commission formally revealed that it had launched 2 investigations into Apple's business practices pertaining to Spotify's complaint, as well as a separate complaint from Raccoon-owned ebook company Kobo. The first of these inquiries would seek to determine whether Apple's App Store terms violate EU competition rules, the Commission indicated, with the second analysis focusing on possible competition rules infractions with regard to Apple Pay itself. And about 1 week after these probes came to light, some suggested that U.S. government officials were considering launching an antitrust investigation against Apple. So that's why this is important, even though the headline from Digital Music News is focused on the EU. This is very important, especially how the U.S. sometimes looks to the EU to see what's going on over there, especially when you're talking about these technology companies. If there's something you'd like to chime in about, raise your hand. I'm going to bring you up on the stage as I finish up this report here. So now, however, the European Union, which has fined Google nearly $10 billion to date, may be preparing to issue Apple a charge sheet based upon Spotify's complaint in the coming weeks, according to a report from Reuters. 2 anonymous sources with knowledge of the matter also relayed that the Commission could provide Apple with a statement of objections or a written collection of the objections raised against them before the start of summer. Separately, Fortnite creator Epic Games remains embroiled in a high-profile legal battle with Apple, once again centering on the Cupertino-headquartered company's App Store fee. And the lawsuit is officially set to head to trial on May 3rd, nearly 9 months after the underlying dispute went public. So this is really interesting to watch. If there's something you'd like to chime in about, raise your hand. You can come up onto the stage. We can talk about it. This is something that, we've seen this with Apple before. And again, they bring up Fortnite, and it's like these fees and what's going to happen with certain apps. I mean, it's not just Spotify. This has a trickle down, and you're looking at smaller companies or even larger companies where Apple is discouraging or making it difficult to install on their phones or even on their desktop computers. So, this is something where it's like, does Apple, how much control does Apple have? It's their ecosystem. How much are they allowed to have? And, for instance, like AltSpace VR. AltSpace VR is a Microsoft product. And to even to install that on your desktop, you have to go through the firewall settings. It makes it difficult. It's not a trusted publisher, they're saying. Things like, the gatekeeping. A lot of these companies are feeling that the squeeze, smaller companies that are launching apps, and the fees are just, they're just too much. And then, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. So if there's any thoughts on that before I move on to the next topic, just raise your hand and just feel free to join up. And also with the remaining time, we do this for an hour. After the remaining time, we do go and, have an open roundtable. So again, next topic. All right. So here we go. All right. So this one was reported in Reuters. And Barcelona to hold rock concert for 5,000 after COVID-free trial. Barcelona, one of Barcelona's top music venues, will hold a concert for 5,000 people later this month after no COVID-19 cases were reported at a pilot project using same-day testing. No social distancing will be required at the show, headlined by Spanish indie band Love of Lesbian, and concert goers will be able to buy drinks, said organizers Festivals per la Cultura Segura. I probably need to work on my Spanish, but whose names translates as Festivals for Safe Culture. To avoid a potential super spreading event, attendees must present a negative COVID-19 antigen test taken the same day and wear FFP2 masks. The arena will be divided in zones of fewer than 1,800 people. The gig, scheduled for March 27th in Barcelona's Palau Sant Jordi, will serve as a pilot to establish, quote, a new protocol for holding events in the current context, the company said in a statement. Organizers decided to go ahead with the event after receiving positive results from a scientifically monitored concert of 2 DJ sets and 2 live performances last December. Around 1,000 people followed similar mask and testing protocols, attended the 5-hour show at Barcelona's Apollo Concert Hall. With half allowed inside the venue. All the attendees were tested 8 days later, and none who were inside the venue had caught the virus. The December concert and testing were supervised by a local university, and the results have been published in a medical journal. If successful, the Love a Lesbian gig could provide a route to recovery for the ravaged live music industry after a year of widespread closures of venues and bans on live performances. So that was in Reuters, and that title was Barcelona to hold rock concert after for 5,000 after COVID free trial. If you had any comments on that, you want to jump on the stage, you want to talk about this, because this is really interesting as we look to the to the outside world, and like we have Texas opening up. This is going, and we hear Michael Rapino from Live Nation discussing this. These are the type of things that are very interesting, and we're going to have to take notes from this. So, hey, Michael, how you doing? Just a reminder that this is being live streamed and recorded. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
I was just going to chime in and mention that I used to be the marketing director at that venue where that concert's going to be held, and I can tell you that it is a large arena. The capacities 18, 19,000, so it is a bit bigger than Madison Square Garden even. And you could easily put 5,000 people in there socially distanced if you wanted to put people 3 seats apart and whatnot. So it's interesting that they're doing it this way.
Yeah, and so when you're talking about, they were talking about pods, the arena will be divided in zones of fewer than 1,800 people. So going back, since you were there, the layout is there balconies? Is it just an open? What is like the overall layout? Is there multiple tiers? Are there how's the seating arrangement?
It's like any big arena. This arena was built for the 1992 Olympic Games. It's a very modern building, even by today's standards. On the floor, you have everything from your large concerts where you're going to have your entire floor seating. To give you an idea of the size, it's much larger than a basketball court down there in the middle. It's got a big ice rink. It's a large arena with 3 or 4 tiers, 3 tiers of seating above the initial stadium seating that you have, and then you have 3 tiers above that.
Okay, so you're saying that you're saying it's feasibly they could do this layout, and there'll be enough gaps, and but we're looking at this is an experiment. They're experimenting. It's like they did one in December for 1,000 people, no COVID cases. 8 days later, they are taking some precautions. It's what the issue that some people are going to have is the fact of we look at Texas opening up, and they're saying it's 100% open, and no restrictions, and there's some venue owners that are saying we want to have restrictions. Other venue owners are like, hey, let's just open the doors and get this going again. What people then also looking at this saying, well, you're kind of experimenting with people's lives, and then the other side of the coin is like, well, they chose to do this. So where and we need to start figuring out how to open up. So it's what do you feel that when it comes to hearing Mike Rapino saying we're looking at concerts opening up mid-summer in the U.S., Texas opening up, how do you see this maybe unfolding in the U.S.? And again, if there's anybody else in the audience that would like to jump in, I'm going to finish up this topic in 30 seconds, move on to the next one, but then we'll have the roundtable. So, Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I definitely feel like Texas opening up here in the U.S. is premature. I think if they've done a test run with this kind of gathering in Barcelona, they did. I think you mentioned it was the Apollo concert hall, which of course is much smaller. But if they're having an antigen test on the day of the event, and I don't know, I'm not a doctor or a medical advisor or anything like that. I think all that needs to be left up to them. And if they're advising that is as long as it's not a political decision, and it's something that doctors are saying we should be able to do this safely, Obviously, there's always some risk involved in that, but there is with everything. That's all I really have to say on it. Did we lose Peter or did we lose me?
Okay, and then so yeah, Mike. So you're more than welcome to chime in, hang out up here. I'm going to move on to the next topic, and if there's anybody
Nope.
in the audience that
Nope.
can you. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I thought you. Yeah. So basically, let's move on to the next topic, and then once I've wrap up, if we have more time, we can open up for discussion on the three different topics. But this one is interesting because of live streaming technology. So this one is Maestro nets 15 million for its interactive commerce community and engagement tools for live streams. Making money on live streams has never been easier. This is from a TechCrunch article. And thanks to a suite of tools from Los Angeles-based startup Maestro, which just nabbed $15 million in financing to grow its business. The company has already worked with names as diverse as the Golden State Warriors, Dallas Cowboys, and pop sensation Billie Eilish on embedding its interactive tools into various live events and promotions. Initially, the LA-based company launched to the gaming community with an interactive features that folks could use in-stream to create better engagement with fans. But what started in the gaming world quickly spun out as the company slashed prices from $500 a month for its services. So, the pandemic also helped this. Quote, we were targeted to a small number of very premier customers. It was around 50 to 60, and we grew to the 100, says Maestro Chief Executive Ari Evans. He also added 2020 was a blowout year. People needed an interactive streaming platform that they could spin up quickly, that they could launch on their website. So celebrities from Katy Perry to Post Malone to Billie Eilish all turned to the service, and so did other streaming platforms like the Los Angeles-based virtual conference platform The Wave. Now the company has $15 million in new financing to capitalize on its growth from investors including NetEase, Sony Music Entertainment, Acronym Venture Capitals, alongside a host of industry titans including Twitch co-founder Kevin Lin and Moonwell Capital. So existing investors, 76 Capital, Strand Partners, a whole list here, and there's more. Evans, since the launch of monetization's tool in May of last year, Evans estimated that the platform has paid out at least $5 million to entertainers to use the service. And quote, we are pleased to be supporting the continued development of Maestro as part of our ongoing investment in new technologies that provide artists with cutting-edge tools and solutions for growing their careers. Maestro gives artists greater flexibility and control to build the most engaging and customized events for their fans, allowing creators at any stage of their career to put together a world-class live stream event, said Dennis Cooker, President, Global Digital Business and U.S. Sales of Sony Music Entertainment. And to wrap this up, we're looking at the third piece of the development ecosystem, said that over at Maestro, we're really copying Shopify, Squarespace for video, or Shopify for video. It's kind of strange that this has taken so long to develop. Quote, the one thing that Maestro, end quote, the one thing that Maestro won't do is discover your search services. Quote, we're helping creators make money and build a business on top of video. That's something creators need to be aware of if they're going to build that direct consumer channel, he said. If you do that, and you're successful, you're in control over your audience. So this is, do we need another live streaming platform? Well, this is a little bit different. This goes over the video. So if there's anybody wants to chime in about Spotify, the Antitrust with Apple, the Barcelona, just anything in concert, so we can take a look at streaming platforms. We can take a look at opening up in the U.S., the other concerts around the world. If there's anything that you have something to report from your region, and also talk about live streaming and community engagement and monetization through these streaming platforms, because we have seen everybody's been coming out with a better streaming platform or a better platform to help monetize on top of an existing streaming platform. So feel free to raise your hand over in Spotify. Wow, how about Clubhouse? And if you want to join the conversation, if there is something else you'd also like to talk about, I am going to be doing this every day. This is brand new. We tested it out last week, but I'm going to do this every day from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's, well, every day as in every weekday, Monday through Friday. If you want to find out more, you can also join musicindustrycity.com. It's a free registration. You get all the list of our other shows. We do video talk shows. We also do VR. We have a VR networking event, which we are in virtual reality doing the event. And we will be doing other artist-centric events here on Clubhouse. So, raise your hand, come on up, and let's talk about some of the topics that you might want to see covered during the week. I see Stuart, Vaughn, Steve, Jamie, Mike, Lindsay, April. How you doing? Devin, Xander, Jesse. How's everybody doing? If you want to pop on up, just raise your hand before I start to wrap this up.
Peter,
all right.
I don't have much to say about the news. I mean, it seems like the epic Apple thing is something that we're just going to see unfold. But I did. I wanted to catch you. You just mentioned that you're doing something in VR, and I just wanted to catch where that is.
Okay, so in AltSpace, we do this in AltSpace VR. So you don't even need a headset. You can access it on your desktop as well. So it's you can just Google AltSpace VR or just go to altvr.com and you can download the service. And it's kind of interesting what you brought up VR, and this is part going back to like the Spotify and the App Store and everything, and Apple's has control over what you can install. And that's a big thing, because if you're on a Mac and you go to download AltSpace and you go to click on 2D, and when you go to download it, Apple won't recognize it as an official publisher, and it is a Microsoft product. So there's that, but it's you have to go, you'll have to open up your preferences, your system preferences, and allow for the one time, it says, whatever that error is saying that this is not a trusted publisher, open anyway, and you might have to do it twice. But this is something that Apple, with their Apple Store, it's like how much control they have of saying or making it difficult for other services to be installed on their platform.
But they're still allowing people to distribute through it. They're just not, like, it's not verifying because they're not getting a cut. Is that the basic idea?
Well, for AltSpace particularly, you have to download it from the Alt VR site. It's not through the App Store, because I mean that's the other thing. You have to be. They have very strict rules on the App Store on what can be done, and we've seen that Google and Apple have both done takedowns numerous times, and like you mentioned, that Epic. Originally, it was kind of like a financial thing, and then they said, well, it didn't adhere to the guidelines, and we've heard other stories where, in-app purchases didn't adhere to guidelines. So, is Apple using that are the companies using the, saying Apple saying, oh, we didn't use the guidelines properly, but it's really because we don't want to pay the fee.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. I would probably go into AltSpace VR actually using VR. So is there a specific room? I mean, I'm using Oculus and HP Reverb for authoring at the moment. So.
Oh yeah. You can actually, you can use the Oculus Quest 2 as a standalone. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday, and it's called the Music and VR Networking Lounge. So that's it's part of the Music Industry City world. So I interview people that are doing some amazing things in the VR world at the intersection between VR and music, and a lot of musicians and DJs have become world builders, and they're throwing amazing parties. So tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, there is a great person that has been doing tons of stuff and has been doing a lot in the music business as well. So it's a great conversation if you want to pop in at 7 p.m. Eastern in AltSpace VR, and the room is Music and VR Networking Lounge. That's the event.
Good. I'll see you there.
All right, Vaughn. Yeah, and hang out up on the stage for a while. I see Jesse. Jesse, you came up. What's going on, Jesse?
Good morning.
How are you?
Just enjoying the conversation, making an oat milk latte, and yeah.
You know what I love about with like oat milk? You don't need sugar because it just has a great flavor.
Mm-hmm. You know what it was? It was the. Did you guys see that commercial on the Super Bowl for oat milk? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I missed it. I missed the Super
Dude,
Bowl
it
this
was the
year.
best one, and it was like it had to have cost the least money, and it was just a guy out in an oat field holding on to his oat milk. So now because of that, I was tried it, and it's good. And they're gonna come out with a new type of milk. They're gonna come out with like banana milk next, and it's gonna be good too. So
Everything is milk, and companies, the dairy industry doesn't like that. Same as like the meat industry doesn't like, garden burgers being called burgers because they're not really burgers, and is oat milk really milk? So that's then they get pushed onto different shelves. So tying into the music, was there anything that you heard about, like, the live streaming or the opening up the concerts or Spotify that you wanted to chime in about?
Not specifically. As far as concerts coming back, you guys might have, I jumped in a little late, but you guys might have talked about this. I'm thinking the other day that for sure we're going to have, I think venues are going to come back that are like open air venues. We have a lot of those in San Diego. And I think those are going to be the first ones to come back, which is going to be really nice. So I'm just looking forward to it opening up, and, hopefully someone decides that I'm worthy of a vaccine sometime soon. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, my age group is the last. I'm like in that pocket where we are the last ones to get it. I'm like, I don't have, I'm healthy, relatively, and I'm in that age group. Matter. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, hang out here, hang up on stage for a little bit. And again, if anybody else from the audience, there's, something you want to, if you caught some of the news there, Spotify, concerts opening back up, Maestro live streaming platform, Sony getting involved into that. April, welcome. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Tuning in from the East Coast of Canada, so I'm an hour ahead of you here.
Right on. Fantastic. So how's everything opening? Is things starting to open up there?
Yeah, so we quickly formed something called the Atlantic. So I'm on the East Coast right now. Before this, I was living in Venice Beach for a little while and Toronto. So I know that things in Toronto recently just opened up, but then it's starting to spread again. So I think that things are kind of being shut down there. But on the East Coast last summer, we were lucky, open air venues, we could do outdoor concerts. And into October, we were able to, as long as people were socially distanced within their bubbles, we could kind of do like a 50-person capacity indoors, as long as people are at their tables and wearing a mask. And if they get up to, go to the restroom, then they put their mask on, kind of thing. But it did get restricted November until right about now. So things are starting to open up. So I think this summer, we'll see, more outdoor for sure, and then the return of some indoor venues. I did hear somebody in a chat room like a few days ago talking about some pretty prominent festivals in Texas. I think Austin City Limits is a go, right? And I don't know what else is a go this year. I know that the East Coast Music Awards are taking place at least in person in May, and I don't know yet if Canadian Music Week out of Toronto, I feel like that's going to be virtual, but other than that, no big news that I'm aware of.
Right on. Jesse, where are you located?
I'm in San Diego, California.
You're in San Diego. And Vaughn, where are you located?
New York City.
Okay, so you and I are in the same boat. But have you heard anything else? I mean, Cuomo's 50% caps or 30% or minimum 100. Like, do you remember it was confusing what he was talking about? It's like minimum 100 can do this, over 100 can do that. Do you remember? Have you just been able to decipher what he's talking about?
I've been so overloaded with his sexual predatory. What's the word I'm looking for?
The accusations and everything. Yeah.
I haven't really been paying attention. I know that who knows about this well is Eli. I'm forgetting her last name right now because she runs Birdland, and so she's been very much on top of this. Concerned about how many people they can let in and how they're going to set up events. I know she was talking about they can get away with doing like a supper club kind of thing. And they're kind of debating that, but obviously that, there's sort of a cost benefit there of like whether it's worth doing. But in terms of the schedule, I'm not really sure. It sounds like we're not going to get, critical mass of vaccinations for another few months. So I know that people were talking about August, September, but seems like most of the touring rooms that I've been in, there's a lot of people who are very skeptical about whether that's like this fall is even going to happen. So my guess is what we start out with like localized events, and particularly if Texas opens up and if we don't see like mass infections, then maybe other people will be less timid about opening up. But at the moment, it seems like the political winds are sort of driving the anti-COVID people to open up early, and we'll see what happens. I guess the rest of us will sort of follow suit, but that's sort of my sense of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, between what talking about herd mentality and the combination of herd mentality plus vaccinations, I mean, herd mentality kicks in only after 70%. Then you have vaccinations, and
herd immunity.
we are at
It's herd immunity.
What we are at is you take a look at New York State, which is 19.5 million people, and the government what the government does is allocates 300,000 doses per week. And now if hopefully that number will rise, but this has also been including the latest ones. And that you're thinking, if you look at the math here and 300,000 per week, we're still looking at, over a year to immunize nearly 20 million people. So, then that's like how it's rolling out and everything. And they're saying they have the infrastructure in place to really turn it up, because like the Javits Center is now a 24/7 place to get your shots. So, they're hopefully that we can start, they can start producing more, and the government from federal can allocate more to each of the states. But we're still looking. I mean, I think I did the math, and it was like 15 months that it would take to give everybody the shots in New York State. So, Jerry, what's up, Jerry?
Hey, how you doing, y'all? Yeah, just about what Cuomo said. It's 33% capacity and maximum 100 people. So if you got a 300 cap venue, you could have 100 people. If you got a 1,500 cap venue, you could have 100 people.
That just doesn't make any sense. That just doesn't. I mean, if you take like Bowery, or you take Terminal, or it's like these venues that you actually can space people out, or even like multi-tiered venues, that's only 100. So no matter what, it's like that's the number. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, that's what the new thing that he's saying is that it's 100 maximum no matter what. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a part of being able to do some contact tracing at the event, keep the population down. So if there is some sort of breakout, it only, reaches 100 people instead of a 1,500 cap being at 33% capacity and it reaching 500 people.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Chiara, are you there out in the audience? Could you just pop on to talk a little about Italy and maybe something that's going on around there? Yeah, so invite. Cool. I have sent you the invite. Chiara, how are you? Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
How's
good.
everyone?
Great, fantastic. So you are in Italy, Milan specific, like Milan area.
Yeah.
So you're in northern Italy. Can you fill us in a little about what you're hearing, what you're seeing? And if there's any crossover between like what you're seeing also maybe in Switzerland or just in Europe in general, because I was talking about Barcelona. So we're looking at Spain as kind of like the guinea pig country, I guess, in a sense, unless there are other things that are happening and we are unaware of.
I've been quiet and I was listening to you guys because from the Italian perspective for right now, it's like nothing at all. And vaccine process is really bad here. Like we vaccinated like around 5 million people and it's like 66 million in Italy. They're not talking about reopening anything, even like, with precautions and tests, and there's nothing of that sort. Also consider that we might, and I hope, of course I'm wrong, but they're talking about in the news that we might go on a lockdown next week to where we cannot leave the house. It's like live music is the last thing on, our government's mind for right now, which is bad because most musicians have been, didn't have any job, in the past year. So it's like sad news from here. I wish, and maybe I'm wrong, but they're not talking about, and also all the concerts in Italy from foreign bands are being canceled. Like for 2021, they're being pushed to 2022.
And what about like any neighboring nations?
I don't know. I think France, Germany are the same. I don't know Switzerland, honestly, but I didn't hear from anything from Switzerland at all. I know they're doing a little bit better, but just because their population is not as, old as our own. But still, there's not much talking, really. And I'm thinking, well, Austria, definitely not. So no, I mean, what we hear on the news is that most of Europe is trying to get as many people with a vaccine as possible before they start, like reopening. And what they say is like, okay, once we get like, let's say 70% of the population vaccinated, we're going to reopen with no mask, no this, no that. But I don't know, honestly. I don't know. And also it sounds something like, okay, how long does it take? Because 70% is a lot, and especially countries like Italy, we're not even close to, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very bad with percentages, but that's not promising.
I'm not good with math unless I have a calculator in front of me or a spreadsheet. What about?
Same
I know.
here.
Yeah, I know you manage an artist over in Sweden, and do you have have you spoken to her? Any updates from there?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Sweden has been totally different compared to most of the world because they never had a lockdown. They never, I mean, what they do is that if there's like a crowd, they have to wear masks, but they really didn't implement pretty much like any of the measures that most of the world, especially like most of Europe, implemented, and still they're okay. They're not talking about live music, and of course they might have something for the summer, but they're only talking about like smaller gigs. And what they did last year, and this was interesting, was a company that was like they were promoting gigs, let's say the standard way, like it used to be, pre-COVID, and they changed completely. And they brought last summer they brought artists to people's homes. So what they did, like if you had like a backyard or like any place in your house, and you had to respect, the capacity of the house, you had to respect some rules, they brought the concert to you. And so she played a few shows of that sort last summer. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. Like for instance, she had a big show around Christmas time, but it got canceled. And she used to play like 2-3 gigs a week, every week. So
Oh, I think we just lost you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you're back. All right.
Yeah, because I had a phone call, of course. Yeah, I just had a phone call. And so that's what's happening, and we're just we're not focusing a lot on the shows in Sweden, just because like, okay, if we get some shows, we're just gonna get them, and then we're focusing our attention on next year, like just starting to plan like 2022. That's what I'm personally doing, even with her, and like in Sweden that is not as bad, but it's like we're using, so to speak, this year to record the album, work with some brands and do different stuff. We just signed a sync deal, to get our music, on like TV or something like that. So we're focusing on different type of stuff. We're not putting too much effort into something that we might cancel and then we get frustrated. We're just trying to stay as positive as we can. It's
Right.
like
Mhm.
it's an approach, that we share. And like, hey, let's go in 2022 and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, crossing borders is going to be is something that's a challenge. Airlines, things like that. Well,
Yeah.
or even in Europe, where some of the countries you can drive, like Denmark, Germany, etc., Switzerland,
Yeah.
things like that, and those type of markets. But it's going to create a challenge overall, as we know. And when things open up, it's going to be chaos trying to route
Yeah.
artist tours routing. And Stuart, if you'd like to come up, I do have a question on the festival side, and just raise your hand and I'll bring you on up here if you're there. Because what we're looking at is basically like states here where it's like Texas opens up. Now, you might have had a tour routed through Texas, the Panhandle states, and that was going to be your summer tour. You wanted to do like, a Southwest tour. You wanted to come in from California, end up in Texas. Now you have the opportunity those holds are open and avails now for Texas, but is it worthwhile, financially when you can't create an entire tour based on it, but now they're saying, well, do you want Texas? Do you want the shows or not? Because you have to let us know right now because we have 17 holds for that 10 p.m. slot on Friday night. So that's one of the challenges that's going for artists. I mean, you talk about something from the artist side, from the touring side, from the agent side to the performer side. It's like, what if the drummer lives at home right now and has elderly parents and doesn't want to take the risk of catching COVID and bringing it home, but the rest of the band members are all saying, yeah, let's go do this. So, Stuart, when we look at festivals, in your experience, I mean, we're not just talking about, the big plot of land that you go in and you build a stage, you put up a PA system, you put up some concession stands, you set up all activities and everything, you put a big fence around it and you open the gates and let everybody run in. You're also talking about the infrastructure of the local towns. I mean, the restaurants and everything else, and the hotels and Airbnbs and the things that have to be in place working with those towns, those cities. And how does this all tie in when it's like the festival says, hey, we're going on, and the town's like, yeah, but we're still closed up a little bit. What are your thoughts in that area?
Hey, Peter, nice to see you.
Thanks for being here.
Man, festivals are very risky. I mean, we can talk all day about acts that will play small geographic areas on weekends. An act could go from Nashville to Texas, play 3-4 shows, come back. But for the most part, that's not what's going to happen, because in contemporary music, there's cost to start a tour, rehearse a tour, fly crew in, get a bus, get trucks, rent equipment, and you can only amortize those costs over the number of shows you do on a tour leg. And if that number of shows is 4, it's going to be unaffordable. Now, that is not an absolute rule. There are people who can travel, very comfortably with a guitar and an amp and can do just fine, but that's not really your question. Your question about festivals is that the infrastructure cost and the planning of festivals is ridiculously complex and expensive. And yeah, you have to deal with towns, and you're going to have to book hotel rooms, not necessarily for the patrons, but certainly for the crew. You're going to have to rent a lot of industrial supplies, porta-johns, earth moving equipment, forklifts, light towers from non entertainment companies, generators, whatever it is, road signs. And your investment before you even talk about talent can easily be millions of dollars that you may not be able to get out of if the town or the patrons or the CDC or for whatever reason, tells you you're not playing this show or you're not able to sell the tickets. On a regular tour, I'm routing dates for October, but I'm not confirming them or announcing them until I'm absolutely certain, or as reasonably certain as I can be, that they're going to play. Festivals are very risky. Look, you could go to William Morris and CAA and ICM and make some sort of a deal that if the festival is canceled for health safety reasons, that you get your deposit back. I'm sure those kind of deals can be worked out. But you could have $2 million spent with other companies that you're not going to get back. If you book a hotel, and it's very typical for a festival to book an entire hotel for 2 or 3 weeks for their crew, they're not going to give you your money back. Once you've signed that contract, you're stuck. And forget about insurance. It's simply not going to happen.
Well, and we're looking at
it's going to cover this.
Yeah, and we're looking at the UK concert promoters, asking the government to chip in and saying, well, if you're opening up and we're not quite ready, and here's all these restrictions, and like economically, it's not feasible with these restrictions, and then we have this insurance. They're saying, can you help? Can you cover the insurance, like government pandemic concert insurance, so they can take the risk and get opened up? And I guess like with Barcelona here, it's it's still an experiment. We're in human guinea pig experimental phase, and that's something that promoters don't want to be responsible. Well, most promoters don't want to be responsible. There were promoters that we saw putting on festival, concerts during the height of the pandemic, and but many promoters want to be responsible, and bands and people in general want to be responsible. They don't. Who does somebody want on their conscious that we put on a show and 10 people died from COVID because of our show? That's like Pearl Jam. Like the incident of the Roskilde, and it's like stuff like that. Those are things that were out of their control. This is something that's kind of controllable in a sense.
I got to tell you, I don't know how to feel about UK promoters asking the government to insure their concerts. Unless I'm not thinking through this properly. And Peter, I'm a rational person. I'll take a position, but if you can convince me that I'm wrong, I'm happy to switch. But festivals, no matter how you look at it, are extremely high-risk ventures. And to ask the government to bail you out because something could happen that you don't want to be responsible for, this doesn't make any sense to me. Make decisions when you have enough information in order to make good decisions. Don't rush out there and say, hey, I think we can do a festival, and if we can't, the government will give us $10 million to pay our bills.
Right.
I
have
a really hard time with that.
So we're going to make the Stewart meme, prove me wrong, change my mind. I'm not going to do that, but I do have a slight bit of a counterpoint, or just another approach to the reasoning behind this call, is that if you look at what concerts, festivals, events generate into the economy. So we look at South by Southwest and the hundreds of millions of dollars they generate to the Austin economy every year. So if South by Southwest doesn't happen, what happens to that economy? So if you look at, Reading and Leeds and things like that, and these other events and concerts, festivals, and what do they do to help stimulate the economy, bring into those tertiary markets, or that. So I see that as maybe they're using that as the angle of saying, listen, we bring a lot to by putting on this event. Here's the numbers. Here's the economic numbers and the impact that we have for this particular region and overall to the government and to the country.
I mean, I think the only pushback on this is that it seems to me like from a scientific perspective, like you'd want to do like smaller events just to see like what kind of spread happens before you get into, going full hog like festival and like just, throwing caution to the wind. I pointed to Texas before. It's like if they're going to want to, completely open up. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. I have seen news reports, who knows how biased they are, of Texans kind of pushing back, saying like, well, it's nice that the government's opening up, but that doesn't mean that we're going to, resume business as usual, because we're still, cautious as just responsible citizens. And, so it sort of also, brings into question whether, if you put on a festival, is the demand even there? And so it seems to me like the way to be responsible about this is just, allow, I mean, if there are people who want to run like, smaller, very small tours that don't have a lot of cost associated with them in smaller venues, and just, sort of monitoring what happens, that's the more responsible way of doing it, as opposed to like, oh, well, let's just start opening festivals and throw caution to the wind.
Yeah. And, depending on the artist, though, like, can a small tour be cost effective? I mean, if you're looking at here's the other thing. When you're looking at venues, venues need a 75% attendance rate, to 75% cap to function. I mean, their margins are already so thin, and it's alcohol sales really carry it. Concession stands sales, they help carry those venues for the most part. And so what happens when it's a third cap allowed to enter the venue? So therefore you have a band. Now it's like the band has an underplay, but to make it financially feasible, they have to triple the price of the ticket. So now you're bundling up some exclusive package. So the people that can come up with something creative for that value, because we're also looking at, disposable income is down. So therefore, like a $25 ticket for a show now has to be $75 for an underplay. And that was what makes it feasibly, feasible to do. I mean, do those economics even make sense? And I'm really just kind of using very round, just throwing out broad strokes there.
I think that there's a lot of creative ways to go about it. And I think that people are so thirsty and hungry for the entertainment that they will pay a little bit of a premium, and they are going to make compromises while we get through the rest of it. And yeah, it's like really doesn't make sense right now, but nothing makes sense. And that's a part of the battle that we're going through. I think it's about compromise. And I think that those people that are going to make the compromise financially and in their venue might really be the standout, like compromise and financially and being responsible, like really taking those extra steps. But yeah.
The creative power. So, all right, we're starting to wrap up. We're down to below the last 10 minutes of the day, so we're like T-7 or 6. And if there's anybody else that wanted to kind of just jump up on the stage for some last minute discussions on anything about the Spotify and Apple and Epic, Antitrust, and the battles that are going on there. We're talking about Barcelona is holding a rock concert for 5,000 attendees after a COVID-free trial, and also Maestro, another live streaming service, like add-ons that just got help out for the $15 billion investment. Plus, Sony was involved in that. I'm Peter Schwing. I'm doing this every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We do it 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. And I pretty much, the format is I'm just going to pick 3 news topics of what's going on. I'm going to read them and we open up the discussion for each one. And then we have a roundtable discussion with the remaining time. If you want to find out more, just join the Music Industry City group and club. And also, if you go to musicindustrycity.com, you can register for free and you'll get the events calendar for the entire week. We do stuff in VR. We're in Altspace. We actually at 7 p.m. tonight Eastern, we do a VR and networking lounge. So if you have a headset, or even if you don't, you can still access it through your computer at altvr.com and download the software, and you can join in the 3D world. We also do other talk shows. Actually, in another hour, we're going to be doing the Monday Kickoff Motivate and Create. That's with Aisha, Damo, and the Duke. We do that live streamed over on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook in Music Industry City. So, that's going to start wrapping it up. Anybody, from the audience has some last minute thoughts. I know, hey, Randy, I see, thanks for joining. Hey, what's up, Ted, Brett, Dave, Eric, how's everybody doing? So if anybody, let's kind of start closing it out then. So Vaughn, April, Jerry, Kiara, any final parting thoughts? And I'll go in the order that I just read that. Vaughn.
I like the discussion, but I don't have anything. I feel like the Epic Apple thing is something that's like unfolding. And probably is going to have pretty broad ramifications, particularly if Congress decides to get involved in anti-monopolistic practices from some of these application stores. But it's hard to comment on without seeing further action going. But I'm following that pretty closely.
Yeah, and going back to in that article in Digital Music News, they were talking about whether Apple Store terms violates EU competition rules, and then it said infractions. And about a week after the probes came to light, someone suggesting that U.S. government officials were considering launching an antitrust investigation against Apple as well. So it's very interesting to watch, and that's why I do this. I mean, I look at it. I think these might be interesting topics, and I like to just start that conversation, and then hopefully somebody else picks it up, like in one of the other clubhouse rooms with the, or people coming up on stage here. I'll let the smart people come up on the stage, and hopefully some other smart people open up a room and continue the discussion. I just like to really bring people together to, let's talk about something. And so we can get the proper information out there and open up a dialogue. So, thank you. So I am going to be doing this again, weekdays, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time, and we do it just for an hour. I want to respect everybody's times. So, April, any final thoughts on any of the topics?
To be honest, the Apple news was new for me, so I jumped in today to see what you were talking about because, sorry, I'm just on the treadmill here, but I think it's really important to stay on top of all of this stuff. And, I will just close off by saying I think the Clubhouse community is finding new ways of building, as musicians. Peter laughs at me because I just got on Clubhouse a month ago, and within 2 weeks, I was like, what are NFTs, Peter? And I just think that there's a whole new wave coming. So I look forward to these discussions, and I'll be back. And I'm also doing a music room tonight. So at 8 p.m. Eastern, after you finish up, Peter, come hop in and hear some tunes for 1 hour.
Right on. Yeah, I think we usually go 7 to 9 p.m. with the VR, but if you're still going, I will definitely pop in. And no, I wasn't laughing at you. I mean, I don't think, basically right now, a clubhouse room, if you want to get people into a clubhouse room, just put NFT in the title. And, you don't have to know anything about NFT, but, people show up. I'm bringing Peter, lowercase Peter, up here. But Jerry, any final thoughts? We got about 2. I'm going to put the 3-minute countdown on.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. Go get your vaccine, everybody, when you can.
I wish I was on that list. I'm one of the last people. I'm in the age group of being healthy, relatively healthy, and in the middle age group where I'm also not a frontline responder or anything like that. So I'm probably going to be one of the last people to get it, unfortunately. But when that time comes, I am going to do so. Kiara, From
Hi,
Italy,
Peter.
reporting in from
Yeah.
Italy.
Reporting from Italy. Well, first off, yes. If in a way, people that don't get the vaccine soon means that they're young and healthy. So no, but this was really interesting what you did, and also like the news that you read, I wasn't aware. Some of the stuff that we do get like a little bit later in Europe, so that's definitely useful, and I love the way you do it. So I'll definitely join more often.
Oh, I
Sure.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and if there's anybody that feels their and lowercase Peter out there, I'm trying to bring you up here. It for some reason maybe there we go. Let's see if that works. But yeah, I mean if there's stuff that you're seeing in the news. And you want to let me know, there's something that you think, hey, I'd love to talk about this. Slide into my DMs on Insta and, just hit me up with an article and I can, see how I roll it into the news. Again, I am just starting this out and, if you're liking this, please spread the word. We'd love to have more people coming up on the stage to talk. Peter, I'm not sure what's going on, but we are going to close out. I am down to the last 60 seconds. So, again, thank you, everybody. This is Music Industry City Broadcast Network, so musicindustrycity.com. You can find us, any podcast player, social media, just type in Music Industry City or type in Peter Schwing. I'm on Twitch as twitchtv.com. / Peter Schwing. Speaking of Twitch, Buzz. Hey, Buzz. I just kind of looked over and saw your message. Hope everything's well over there. And if you're still on, I can't tell right now. I'm just looking at that. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully join again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. And have an awesome day, everybody. I'm looking forward to the other Clubhouse rooms with all the smart people. So thanks, everybody. Have a great one. Be awesome. Take care.